So far on this channel, you've seen me exploring a lot of northern China, particularly around Shandong, and discovering the food, culture, and everyday life here. But in today's video, we're heading further south to Zhejiang province and the coastal city of Wenzhou. We planned this trip to visit some friends, but I was also excited to experience something I hadn't explored much yet: southeastern Chinese food. And because Josh's friend grew up in Wenzhou, we had the perfect person to show us around. He could introduce us to food he grew up eating and take us to some of the places that make this part of Zhejiang so special. Yes, we'll be exploring some delicious food, but we're also heading into the mountains to discover a really incredible waterfall. So let's head to Wenzhou. Wenzhou is in the southern east of Zhejiang province, surrounded by mountains, rivers, and the coast, so the landscape here is very different from the northern parts of China I've become used to, and that geography has a huge influence on the food. Wenzhou is particularly famous for its seafood, fresh local ingredients, with food culture heavily influenced by its coastal location. Luckily, we had the perfect person to show us around. This is Sho, one of Josh's good friends. The two of them met many years ago when Josh first came to China, and I think it's pretty special that they've stayed in touch all these years. Sho actually grew up in Wenzhou, so we couldn't have asked for a better person to introduce us to the city and some of the food he grew up eating. With a waterfall hike ahead of us, a little fuel was definitely needed. Sho took care of ordering for us, and the dishes just kept coming. First up were the stir-fried beef noodles. The beef is quickly wok-fried with onion, carrots, and wood ear fungus before a hot broth is poured over the noodles. And these were so different from a lot of noodles I've tried. The broth was light but still really rich in flavor, with delicious wok coming through from the beef and vegetables being cooked at such a high heat. Then came something completely different for me: Wenzhou yuan. It's described as a bouncy, almost springy texture like fish gluten. The broth itself was clear and delicate. Texture of the fish gluten was definitely my favorite part. And I started noticing something about Wenzhou food as we worked our way through the dishes. The flavors were a lot more subtle than the north. Instead of being heavily salted or boldly seasoned, there was a real complexity to the flavors, while still keeping everything clean and delicate. You could pick up little layers of flavor like the umami from dried shrimp without anything overpowering the main ingredients.
Josh and I are currently visiting friends in Wenling, but we decided to come to Wenzhou. We are actually on our way to go and do a bit of a hike and go to a waterfall. We just had a pit stop to charge the electric car and grab ourselves a cup of coffee, and we've come to an area called Europe City. And I was like, why is this called Europe City? The architecture is somewhat European, and maybe the clothing boutiques give that feel of like you walking in Paris. But then, drum roll, there's a giant arc de triomphe in the middle of the square, and it's like super realistic. It's really good.
China really has some of the quirkiest little surprises, because who would expect to find a mini Arc de Triomphe right here in Wenzhou? After a quick stop, we jumped back into the car and headed up into the mountains towards Baizhangji Waterfall. The walk down was beautiful. We had views stretching across the valley, huge rock faces surrounding us, and thick green forest all around. As we got closer to the waterfall, the landscape just kept getting more impressive. Welcome to Baizhangji. This incredible three-tiered waterfall is one of the most impressive natural sights in Wenzhou, with the highest drop reaching an incredible 207 meters and all three waterfalls together dropping more than 350 meters. It's also become a popular filming location, particularly for Chinese martial arts and fantasy dramas. And standing here, surrounded by the mountains and mist, it's not hard to see why. At the bottom, the water was crashing down into the valley, sending this beautiful mist drafting through the trees. Of course, we couldn't resist stopping for a little photo shoot. It seems to be a very popular thing to do in most tourist spots in China. And honestly, with a backdrop like this, I can see why. I think the photos turned out pretty well. What do you guys think? But the weather had other plans. The clouds rolled in, the temperature dropped, and after running underneath waterfalls, we were absolutely drenched.
Run, run, run!
cold, wet, and very ready to get in the car and into some dry clothes. That's when Zhou had the perfect solution: fried baozi.
We finished up at the waterfall, we jumped in the car, and then Zhou was like, guys, we're not far from one of my favorite spots to go and get fried baozi. So we were like, wow, absolutely, then let's go and do it. We jumped in the car. An hour and a half later, yes, a bit of a detour, but an hour and a half later, we are now in Fujian province. And when I tell you, this little street or town that we're in is so cool. There is such a vibe. Everyone's on scooters. The street is just lined with amazing little restaurants and barbers. It's so epic. There's like this really awesome energy here. I'm gonna try and cross the road. There you go. Try and cross the road here because this little baozi place is making up some beautiful fresh baozi, but they fried. I've never had a baozi that's fried.
I find this so fascinating. Food just isn't something you eat here. It can be tied to a place, a memory, a person, or a particular time in your life. Zhou told us that he used to work in this city, and this is where he found out about the fried baozi. And he loves it so much that he told us if he is ever in a 2-hour radius of this place, he makes a special trip. So after getting soaked at the waterfall, we drove about an hour and a half. So after crossing the border from Zhejiang into Fujian for these baozis, I can't wait to find out what makes them so worth the journey. The smell and the sounds coming from the shop had my mouth watering before we had even ordered. But before we try them, let me quickly show you how they make them. They start by portioning out fluffy pieces of dough before filling each one with seasoned pork mince and a little spring onion. Then each baozi is carefully folded and pinched closed before being lined up in a large frying pan. They're fried until the bottoms become beautifully golden and crispy, and then the lid goes on. The steam trapped inside cooks the dough and the pork while keeping everything soft and juicy. Halfway through, they flip each one over so that the other side gets nice and crispy too. And just like that, you've got these golden, crispy on the outside, fluffy on the inside, fried baozi.
Oh my word.
That was very brave. Mine was so hot.
That is delicious. That is everything you want in a fried good. Crispy outside, super fluffy inside, and then the most juiciest, sweetest pork with this little bit of onion. Josh and I already absolutely adore baozis, but now this is like on another level. This is just, it's naughty, but it's so good. Oh man.
The soup I had to have this.
Yeah, wonton.
That's too much for you.
That's too much chili for sure.
We then tried a dish very similar to what we had for lunch. It's made by taking fresh pork and pounding it together with sweet potato starch until the mixture becomes elastic and almost stringy. Then scraped into these wobbly little strips before being cooked in a light broth.
Nice and chewy, nice texture, nice pork, very clean flavor. And that's why white pepper is really nice, because the white pepper is such a nice, like, clean flavor, but it adds such warmth and depth to this dish, which is quite clean. Actually 10 out of 10.
And it turns out you can actually have these delivered to your home anywhere in China. How cool is that? 3 RMB 50 per baozi, that's roughly 50 US cents for a little taste of Fujian goodness. And honestly, if this is my first taste of Southern Eastern Chinese cuisine, I am very excited for the next few days in Zhejiang. We already discovered incredible food, explored mountains around Wenzhou, and crossed into another province just for a plate of fried baozi. And there's still so much more to come. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, because next week we're continuing our Zhejiang adventure. We'll be heading to Wenling, the city where Josh first came to China 6 years ago, before eventually finishing our trip in Hangzhou. After walking the streets for a little while, it was time to head back, although I'm still questioning my choice of dry outfit. I'm not sure what I was thinking. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed exploring Wenzhou with us. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!